All right, so here is my carrots. I'm going to get you set up and we will uncover them. All right, so this is our carrot harvest for this year. This is the first year that I grew these bolero carrots. I don't know if I'll grow them again because there was a lot of slugs in these. And it could have just been the year, but last year I had 0 slugs in my carrots. So we have some carrots that are super nice. We've got some that are fat. I think this might be our biggest carrot. But my one bed, a lot of the carrots were like this, which is really disappointing. But I'm going to wash them, I'm going to use them, and we will get them in the freezer.
Alright, so I'm going to start loading carrots into my bowl. We're going to take them in and start washing them to get ready to process.
We are here at the sink. My sink has some water in it, not a whole lot. I might have to add more. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrub my carrot and put them on a towel. Last year I did not peel any of my carrots. And if I have to peel some this year, I certainly will. But if I don't want to, sorry, what I mean to say, if I don't have to, I don't want to. So as you can see, if you scrub a carrot, it can get nice and clean. All right, I'm going to keep doing this and we'll get them all clean. All right, everybody, so here is a quick update. We have gotten 2 bowls of carrots cleaned. I'm doing my best to clean these little ones, but we are starting to get into carrots that are this size. Now, don't get me wrong, I am grateful for every carrot that I have, but it is really hard to clean these because what I've been doing is putting them in the palm of my hand and then brushing the brush over the palm of my hand. So my hand is getting all torn up. So I've made the decision, this size I can handle. Got a little girth to it and it's a decent size. But these little teeny tiny ones, I've decided that I am just going to let those go And hopefully next year we will have a little bit better harvest. All right, everybody. So here is just a quick update. I have about half the carrots clean. I have this here. I have all of these here. And then this small bunch on the table. I'll show you out my window. And this is what I still have left out there. And I changed my mind. I initially said I was going to throw these little ones away, but I've been putting them in this bowl. And I think what I'm going to do is get a pair of those silicone gloves with the little fringy things on that you scrub with. And I'm going to scrub these and just eat them instead of preserving them. But my hands are getting very sore from being in the water. So I decided I'm going to set up my slicing area. You can see I've already sliced one. This guy was awfully large. But I'm going to get this set up and I'm going to start slicing. And then we can either preserve tonight or we can preserve tomorrow, depending on how long this takes us. All right, so I think I'm going to try to use my mandolin. We will see. I'm afraid they're going to be too thin, but I'm also afraid of my hand dying. So we're going to give it a try. I do have a few poor looking carrots, so I will trim those up. Okay, we got the bug hole out of that one. And I don't peel my carrots from the garden. I peel my carrots that I get from the grocery store, but not the garden. And mainly it's because I know what I put in that garden and I just scrub them very, very well. All right, let's give this a try. All right, so they are thinner than I would normally do. And I don't know if there's I don't think there's a way to adjust it. I mean, they're not terrible. They are thinner than I would normally. I would normally cut mine about that thick. These ones are about this thick. I mean, this would be much faster. I wonder what this one would do. About the same thing. Well, we'll use this one for now. Hey, maybe I'll keep a tail on. That way I don't risk my fingers. Now, at one point I was complaining about the quality of the carrot and blaming it on the brand because this is a new brand for us this year. But I got a ton of carrots this year, a ton. And maybe I just planted more this year, but we'll see. Maybe I plant both kinds next year and see which one does better. My husband is almost home from his hunting trip. And that was another reason I decided to just start slicing these carrots and potentially finishing the cleaning tomorrow because I'm getting tired. My hands are getting sore. And I haven't seen my husband in 6 days. So I would just like to sit down and relax with him. And I know he is tired and sore from hunting, and I know he doesn't want to help me. All right, everybody. So it has been 2 days since I picked the carrots. I thought I was going to be able to get everything done in that one day, but I did not. So it is now Monday. We picked the carrots on Saturday. Yesterday, my husband and I cleaned carrots together. He helped me bag them, seal them, and we got maybe a third of the carrots done. So today we are going to continue to wash. He is currently working on getting some freezer bags ready. So when the carrots are blanched and cooled, he can start bagging them. We have 4 bowls already cut of carrots. I think last night we blanched maybe 4 bowls, and I am still feverishly cleaning carrots. So I'm going to get this pot of water on the stove over here so it can start getting warm. These are all clean dishes, but I'm not going to take the time to put them away. I'm going to put these cutting boards away so I can shut the dishwasher, and then I'm going to shut it with all the clean dishes in it because I just don't have the time. We are trying to get these carrots done because it is supposed to rain tonight, and then it is supposed to freeze, and I do not need frozen carrots outside. So I'm going to pull out a couple more things and then shut this for now so it's out of my way. We will probably use both of these in this carrot process. So one thing I did want to test out was these gloves. I got these from Walmart. They're called silicone dish gloves. And I'm hoping that they help me in the process of cleaning these carrots because scrubbing them with the little brush is starting to hurt my hands. So here goes nothing. Okay, there you have it. These gloves work. Okay, so my conclusion of these gloves, everybody, is they're definitely worth the $7 and some odd cents that I paid for them. But they do make a mess. You are going to get sprayed with water. They seem to be doing just as good of a job as the other brushes. I even have tried, when I thought maybe it needed more scrubbing, to use the other brush. And it doesn't really seem to change it much. So I'm going to give these gloves a 10 out of 10. Yeah, it didn't take any of that off that I thought it might. A 10 out of 10, and this is definitely something you guys should invest in if you're like me and you overplanted your carrots. All right, everybody, so we're going to take a quick pause from cleaning the carrots over there, and we are going to start blanching. So blanching a vegetable basically means you flash cook it. So you cook it for about 3 minutes, and then you pull it out and put it in some ice water. And what it's going to do is going to stop the vegetable from continuing to decompose or ripen, but it's not going to fully cook it, so it's not going to get mushy. So I like to use my little spider here so I'm not fully splashing myself. I tend to fill my pot as full as I can get it. So I brought this pot of water to a boil. We're going to stop it there. We have a few rogue carrots over here. I'm going to make sure all that is under. And then I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes. While that's set for 3 minutes, I'm going to get another bowl with some ice and water in it. So when these are done, we will pull those out and throw our next batch in and chill these hot ones. Okay, so our timer went off. I have our ice water here. This didn't come back up to a boil, but the water is hot enough that it is blanching these carrots. You're going to strain off as much water as you can. Put it in to your other bowl. I may not have a bowl big enough this time around. Okay, so note to self, when I'm using this bowl as my ice bowl, don't put that many carrots in. Last night I was using my big yellow Tupperware bowl, which I currently have full of carrots, and my other one is full of tomatoes. All right, so I got all of the carrots out of the hot water. I'm just going to leave that to let it get back up to boiling, and we're going to shift these into the living room where my husband is. All right, so what you're going to do, now these should be cool, except for my top ones were not underwater, and I dumped water out on my way in here. Our biggest problem right now is we ran out of ice in our house, so we're currently trying to make some. But you are going to take them out of this bowl of water. And we tried to use dish towels last night. It did not work. They don't absorb enough water. But you are going to put them on your towel. We're going to let them dry. Last night we did not let them dry enough, and they did not vacuum seal for us. And then once these are fully cooled and dried, Carl is going to vacuum seal them for us, and they will be ready for the freezer. Right, Carl?
Right.
So his job is fairly easy until the very end. These have to cool for a bit. He still gets to relax a little bit. He is making bags though, getting ready. All right, everybody. So we are getting ready to make pickled carrots. The amount of carrots that I pulled out of the garden this year was astronomical. Last year, when we planted, we blanched and froze all of our carrots, and we went through them very, very quickly. So this year, I doubled the amount of carrots that I planted. And I'm not sure if last year was just a bad year for carrots and we didn't get as many, or we just went through them fast because we weren't used to having carrots in the freezer because that was our first year making carrots, or growing carrots, I should say. But planting double may have been a mistake. So I picked these carrots last week, Saturday. It is now a whole week later. It is Saturday again. We have sliced, blanched, and froze 34 4-cup bags of carrots. So we already have the freezer full of carrots. We have 3 containers of carrots ready to go. These are 15.5-cup containers. And then our entire refrigerator is still full of carrots on the bottom of it. Plus, we have carrots we haven't even cleaned yet. So when I say we've got a lot of carrots, we have a lot of carrots. But one thing I don't like about YouTube is that people make things look easy. And I will tell you that the amount of carrots we have was very overwhelming. We have taken this entire week to slowly work through the carrots. And if I thought I could get them all done in one day, which is what I thought, I was completely wrong. So don't feel bad if it takes you a while. Carrots are a vegetable that will last fairly well as long as they're not sitting, being soggy, soaking up water. So we are going to pickle these today, and then I'm going to pull out my next batch and start slicing, and we will try pressure canning some carrots as well. So the pickled carrot recipe that I'm using is a recipe I got from my friend. She gave me a jar earlier this summer, and I've never had pickled carrots, but these carrots are amazing. So her recipe calls for, per pint, 1/4 of a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, half a teaspoon of mustard seed, half a teaspoon of dill. When I talked to her, am I supposed to use dill weed or real dill? She said she uses dill seed. I'd never heard of dill seed, but I looked in here and sure enough, she's got seeds in there. So I went out special and bought the dill seed when I got my mustard seed. She also puts 1 whole clove of garlic per pint. And then when she makes the brine for the carrots, it is a 1-to-1 ratio of water and vinegar. And then for each 1-to-1 combo, you're adding 1 tablespoon of canning salt to that. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to get our brine started. Now I was a little goofy and I only have this much vinegar. So I may try doing this with apple cider vinegar because I have some of that, and we'll see if that's a tasty difference or not a difference. And the big thing when you're pickling something, you can hot water bath can it. So we're going to water bath can it for 12 minutes. But you need to make sure that the vinegar you're using says it has at least 5% acidity. So that 5% acidity is what's going to allow you to hot water bath can it safely without having to pressure can it. So let's move over to the stove. Let's start getting things measured for the brine so we can start getting that heated up, because it does have to be boiling hot in order to go into the jars. All right, so I have 2 pots on the stove ready to go. I am unsure how much brine we're going to need. This is my first time making this, but I'm going to start off with 4 cups of vinegar. And then I'll do 4 cups of water. That gives me just about half of a pot full here. I'm going to add my salt real quick, but I'm probably going to add another batch of 4 on top if I have that. So I'm going to need 4 tablespoons of canning salt. All right, then I'm going to measure this out real quick. So there's another 4. And another 4 of water, and we'll do 4 more salts. And just because I don't have much vinegar left, I'm just going to pour this and see what we're looking at. I'd say we're at about a half a cup. So I'm just going to add that in. I'm going to do half a cup of water. And we'll do half a tablespoon. All right, so that is all of the white distilled vinegar I have. So I am going to make this whole pot apple cider vinegar, and we're just going to roll with it. All right, so I'm going to get this on. We have to bring this up to a boil and dissolve the salt. I did want to show you that I already have jars in the oven warming up. So let's get the apple cider pot measured. All right, so we're just going to measure the last bit out because we only have a little bit of this left as well. Looks like this will be on my next Walmart order. It's a little bit. Okay, so our brines are ready on the stove. I'm going to get both of them on to bring them up to temperature here. You want to make sure you're stirring the salt so it does dissolve. All right, now that I have this stuff starting to heat and the salt seems like it's pretty suspended in the liquid, it's not grainy on the bottom anymore, I'm going to go out and get the canner started. All right, everybody, so our water in our canner outside is almost boiling. Our vinegar is practically boiling, so we are going to get started here on packing these jars and getting them ready to get in the canner. So I'm just going to leave this here on the stove for a little bit while longer, right up until we need it. I'm going to start by pulling our jar out. I might need to find where I put my glove. Oh, I hung it up where the gloves go, the pot holders. Okay, so I found a handful of wide mouth lids as I was searching through stuff, so that is what I'm using for these. So to the bottom, I'm going to do all of these with no red pepper flakes in them. So I am doing 1 teaspoon of mustard seed because the recipe I have is made for pints and I am doing quarts. So I am doing 1 teaspoon of mustard seed. And then it says 1 teaspoon of dill or half a teaspoon for a pint. Remember, this is dill seed. Ooh, this smells like dill. I don't know why I thought it wouldn't. I'm going to use my skinny end for this one. So 1 teaspoon of that. And then the recipe says 2 cloves or 1 clove of garlic per pint. So I'm going to do 2. I'm going to try to find 1 bigger one and a smaller one if need be. And then I am going to put my carrots in. Now remember, this jar is warm. You want to work fast when you're doing this. And this would be a recipe that you're going to need to debubble. And it says to leave 1/2 inch headspace. I'm going to make sure that my carrots have plenty of room because the last time I pickled something that was oddly shaped, I wound up with some veggies over top of the liquid by the time they were sealed, which they will probably still be fine, but if I was a little more careful, we might not have issues. So both of my pots are boiling. I'm going to start by using the just regular vinegar, not the apple cider. Remember, the salt is already in here, so we don't need to add salt to the jars. Okay, so I'm going to fill it up to there for right now. I am going to debubble because I'm going to see if by doing this I can fit a few more carrots in, which looks like I probably can. Let's add a few more carrots to the top here. All right, let's top off our brine. Remember, a 1/2 inch head space without having to measure is going to be this bottom ring of your jar. Okay, we're going to debubble one last time. All right, I'm going to take a napkin. Because this is vinegar base, you don't have to be as crazy about wiping it with water as you would if it was a food base like tomato or an oil base. So we're going to put our ring and lid on. Slide this to the side and grab our next jar.
Okay, so here I am just finishing up the last jar of the first batch of pickled carrots that I made. My canner can hold 7 jars in it. That's how many spaces are in my rack. So I did 7 quart jars. After I have them all filled, I head outside to my canner. When you're water bath canning, you want to make sure that your water is a full rolling boil before you put your jars in. And typically it will continue to boil as your jars are being placed in there. So here you can see I'm placing my 7 jars into my canner. You do want the water to be over top of your jars a little when you're water bath canning. So by the end of me putting in all of these jars, you'll see that the water does come up and over the jars. I've seen people say to do 1 inch over the jars, but I've just always had them cover a little bit. So for this recipe, you are going to water bath can for 12 minutes. And after that 12 minutes, you are going to take the jars out, which is what you're seeing here. During that 12 minutes, I was inside filling another 7 jars to place them in the canner. So I pull these jars out, I get them situated inside, and then I bring the next set of jars out to be canned. Typically when I'm canning, this is my process to try to get it done as fast and efficient as possible. So I'm always constantly having a relay effect with myself, taking stuff out and putting stuff back in. So I did not film the second batch of carrots just because it's the same as the first batch, but You'll see here I bring these jars in. They are very heavy, so make sure you got your muscles on. I'm going to place them on this towel, and I will let them cool for 24 hours. And we will be back in the morning to check the jars to see if they all sealed or not.
All right, everybody, we are back. It is the next morning. We are going to check our jars. Some of them are still a little warm, so we may have to just move them and leave them be, but let's test them. So how you test to make sure your jars are sealed, if you have never done that before, is you are just pushing on the top. If it doesn't pop down, that means it's sealed. So this one, not sealed because it popped down. So this one we will put in our refrigerator, and we will just eat it. We're going to let these sit for at least 5 days before opening them or eating them. But since this one was not sealed down, this one will go in the fridge. Even though right now it seems like it is sealed down, that is a false seal. If I were to open this, it automatically pops right back up. So we will be putting this guy in the refrigerator. I will make a note that this jar isn't sealing. I feel like I knew this jar didn't seal, but I wasn't sure, so I tested it out anyways. So he's going to go in our refrigerator. The rest of these guys, some of them are still a bit warm, so I may move them to a different part of the counter because I want to use this part to start pressure canning the rest of the carrots and hopefully wrap up this carrot extravaganza of 2025. All right, everybody, we are here. We're going to finish preserving these carrots. We have done freezer method for preservation. We have 34 bags preserved in the freezer. We have pickled them, and now we are going to try pressure canning. So I got my pressure canner out. I am using my Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving cookbook to help me figure out the timing. So in here it says carrots will get cooked for 30 minutes for a quart, which is what we are going to do. I'm going to do the raw pack method, which is put them in uncooked or unblanched. And then it also says to add 1 teaspoon of canning salt to your jars as you are preserving. So let's get this started here. All right, we've got that. We're gonna go take this and get some water in it real quick. All right, I have my water in there. I have my rack in there. We are going to put this in. Let me go grab my vinegar. We're going to put a splash of vinegar in there. So I just got this delivered in my Walmart delivery this morning because I used all of mine yesterday when I was pickling. But if you don't know, adding a tablespoon of vinegar to your pot while you're canning will help prevent the water scale buildup in your pot and on your jars. I just kind of put a splash in. All right, and then this canner will fit 5 quarts, wide or regular mouth. Got to make sure that your quarts are filled up about halfway so they don't float. So we will get those set in there. We are going to put the lid on, lock it, lock this on. We are picking pressure canning. We are setting it for 30 minutes. We have already inserted our jars and now it will start warming. And once it's warm, we will get our jars filled. All right, everybody. So the canner, it is ready. It is beeping at us saying fill your jars. So we have a pot of boiling water. That is what you have to add to your jars to fill up after you add the carrots. I have another pot here on the stove that I'm going to actually dump our jars into because we might as well keep that warm water because we're going to need it. All right, so we're going to start filling these jars. So I'm going to dump the contents of these jars over here. We are going to add our 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we are going to add our carrots in. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did yesterday. I'm going to add carrots in, add water, stir them about, pack them in tighter to make sure we maximize our space. All right, so we're going to do that. We're going to grab our knife here. Make sure there are no bubbles hiding anywhere. Add a few carrots to the top here. I like these littler carrots to put on top. And then we're going to top this off. Remember, 1/2 inch head space again. So that's going to be to this bottom lip of the jar. If you prefer to measure it, go ahead and measure it. I have never been a measurer and I've never been steered wrong. So we're going to put our lid and our ring on. We're going to set that in there and we are going to keep filling. All right, so that is our last jar. We're going to put this lid back on. The canner will then vent itself. All right, guys, so this is almost done venting. We're going to let this can, the timer set. This just has to seal itself and it will be canning. All right, so the canner beeped. It says it is done. So we are going to pull the regulator off. There's still going to be some pressure in it. We've got to wait until that falls before we can open it. I have a bath towel around the corner. We moved our kitchen table into our living room during this carrot processing time. So I'm going to take them from here and move them onto that towel, which is where they are going to cool. And then we will get our next batch started. All right, so I will show you what these look like. And we will go put them on the table. All right, everybody. So I don't think I ever came back to recap the carrot extravaganza that we had at our house, but I am getting ready to put them on the shelf, so I figured I would just stop in and recap. So if you remember, we did pickled carrots. We did that in a water bath canner. I ended up with 14 jars, quart jars of pickled carrots, and one did not seal, so one is in the fridge. So we have 13, well, technically 12. I gave one to my mother-in-law, so 12 jars to go on the shelf. We also did canned carrots, and we ended up with 15 total jars of canned carrots. One of them didn't seal, so I put that in the fridge. One I gave to my mother-in-law, and I got 13 here. The one mistake I did with my canned carrots, as you can see, the water siphoned out of the jars. Now these jars are all sealed, so they're still okay to eat. But the reason they siphoned out of the jars, if you remember from me pressure canning them, is that I pulled the regulator off when it said done. And I went back and I looked in my book, and it said you're supposed to let it do a natural release, and you're supposed to wait until that seal button goes all the way down. And I did not do that. And so it depressurized very quickly, and that's what causes siphoning when it comes to pressure canning. So my whole last batch all has water that siphoned off of them, but they did seal, so they will be okay. The one jar did not seal, so that one's in the fridge. But I'm going to test that jar out. If I like it, I still have 2 giant bowls of carrots in my refrigerator. Now, carrots will last a long time in the refrigerator, but we've been eating them in things, just putting them in random foods that normally wouldn't have carrots in, just to use them. And it tastes fine, don't get me wrong. But if we like the canning method, I think I'm going to try to can some more. So I'm going to take these and get them on my shelves. On top of what you see here, I also had, sorry, the dogs are chasing the cats. I also had 38 4-cup bags that I froze of carrots as well. So lots and lots of carrots this year. The garden was plentiful when it came to carrots, and we are so grateful for that. Thank you for joining me on this carrot extravaganza journey. Hopefully you learned something that you can help preserve your own carrots at your house. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, share it with your friends. And while you wait for my next upload, I will post some videos here on the side. Hope you have a good day. Goodbye, everyone.